Hey guys, thanks for checking out this exclusive conversation with Michael Wood, General Manager at Jaguar Land Rover of Virginia Beach. We had a chance to catch up with Michael the day after his beautiful client experience event. During this event, he brought clients together who owned Defenders and really taught them how to use it out on trails, terrain, and even going through water. And they even had the JLR experience team there. So we've been spending the last few days together, and it's just kind of mind-blowing how hospitable you are at every single level. Like, I know I'm like a guest in here with you, but like I stayed at your house. I stayed here at your Airbnb that we're at right now. And that doesn't just go to me. It goes to literally every single client you came across when we were at your store, when we were at your event. Where does that come from? Like, you're just so generally loving and hospitable. And I can, like, we already asked you this. I know it's always been that way, but like, where do you think that genuinely comes from, and why do you do that?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I just think that you have two options in life. You can either give or you can take. And I just feel that if you're more of a giver, then, you know, maybe you're living a better life that way. I don't know. I really don't know how to describe it. I just don't know any other way to look at life. Like, you know, I always want to help my friends and family out. And I always want to help, you know, my clients out. Like, who wants to do the opposite of that though? Like, that's really, that's my question, I guess, is like, why are people not that way?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Why are people programmed the opposite way?
Right. Like, I could never understand that, at all.
Yeah. So your event yesterday, like, that's the second one you've done.
Yeah.
The first one you've done, where did that original idea come from?
So I got to go to the Trek event last year, and I got to personally do a way more intense version of what we did yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
And it kind of made me a lover of the car, honestly. And I was like, I had this like aha moment where I was like, this is what I need my clients doing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you read the book Broken Windows, Broken Business, or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about the idea of, you know, how do you create loyalty? And he brings up the Krispy Kreme versus Dunkin' Donuts conversation. It's
Sure.
like, you know, you ask people, which one do you like better? You know, which one do you like better?
Oh man, Dunkin' Donuts.
Which one do you go to first?
Krispy Kreme.
That's interesting. So typically the people, they like the one.
If I had to choose one, it's Krispy Kreme, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's because, I can't do this now, but it's because of the donuts, honestly.
Sure.
That's why. Because you always get a donut if you walk in there and get coffee.
So, and typically when I ask this question, the one that they like the most, more often than not, it was the first one they went to, right? And so what happened there is, like, you had, as a consumer, you had a expectation. You went to the place, they exceeded that expectation.
Sure.
So now the repeat part comes.
Yeah.
And then over time, if it continues to happen, you know, you get loyalty to the point to where you'll have people that are, they identify as Dunkin' people. And those are people that have, like, maybe they buy a coffee mug, or they have, like, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
And then they
show up to work with the Dunkin' cup.
Right. And they would never think about going to Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, how can I create that with my clients?
Yeah.
What's through experiences and activations?
Yeah.
If we can show them what their vehicle can really do and give them something that we're not asking them to spend money, they just get to enjoy their vehicle more. That's an ownership experience, as opposed to a transactional relationship that the vast majority of dealers have.
Yeah. And like, this event is, as a whole, like, yes, it was your idea and your inception, but literally everything you do on the store side, you're 100% bought in. You're yourself everywhere you go. You have very open and candid conversations with literally everybody all the time. Yeah. Even the employees we had around, like, the last week, like, you were just so candid and open with all of them. And, like, on all seriousness, no other GM at a JLR store, any high-end luxury, any store at all, even if it was like a CDJR or other entry-level one, would be sitting here right now dressed the way that we are, right? Like, no one would do that because they're so afraid to not be themselves.
Yeah, no, man. I'm a sandals and hat kind of guy, man.
Yeah.
Like, my wife hates it because it'll be like the middle of December, 20 degrees outside. I'll have jeans and a hoodie on.
Yeah.
And I'm still wearing sandals.
Yeah. It's the sandal thing.
Yeah, 100%. It's a beach thing, man.
Yeah, that's right. Beach and island life, right? Yeah. So one of the other cool things that you do is you have a Airbnb rental house that we're actually at right now.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the entrepreneurial side of you, is that you really wanted to grow in those different ways. You found a business venture, and you kind of also found something that you love doing. Mm-hmm. And like, yes, everybody wants to make big money from the Airbnb, but you also have a home here that we're in right now that you can literally come to as a vacation home here and there. Mm-hmm. And it's perfect. Where did that idea come from?
It came from two major ideas, honestly. Is one, you know, I want income for when I retire.
Yeah.
And two, I had, one of those another light bulb aha moments when I realized that the tax code isn't written for you and me, it's written for businesses. And so I needed to figure out how to start a business so that I could start cashing in on some of the tax advantages. So, I mean, and that's the truth though. I was talking with my accountant and he was just like, we need to find a way to get you more deductions. He's like, you need to start a business. And so that's when Lanewood Properties was born. And, this is our first of hopefully many to come. We'd really like to be able to maybe get one or two more down here in the Outer Banks because we just love it, and obviously the proximity. But we've toyed around with the idea of potentially buying one, maybe in Italy or something.
Wow.
Just because we love going there as well.
That's right. And you're trying to overlap those two things.
Yeah, and the property isn't that crazy expensive by any means for a 2-bedroom type place. So. Yeah, we hope that we can grow it into something to where, maybe my wife walks away from her job one day and just manages the properties.
That'd be beautiful. Cool. That's the dream, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but even the hospitable side that we were just talking about, that even takes place in your rental home, your Airbnb. Mm-hmm. There's so many small things that you have here at this home for the guests. Mm-hmm. What's an example? Baking needs. Literally, we were just doing dishes and putting everything away. And I know we talked about this last night, but I literally see all these cake pans for people if they want to make cakes, if they want to make some sort of bread, if they want to make some sort of cupcakes. You literally thought of everything so that when someone walked in here and said, hey, I want to do this one thing and make an experience while they're here, you have that.
Yeah.
And you've been so intentional about that.
For sure.
And so Unreasonable Hospitality, I know we've talked about that book a few times. You found it last year. Mm-hmm. If there were a few things that maybe someone doesn't want to read the book, but there's maybe 2 or 3 takeaways that they could have from that book, what would you tell them?
That's
and only picking 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the only picking 2 or 3. It's just that through intention you can create experiences that transcend the transaction.
Sure.
I think would be the best way to sum it up. And what we're trying to do at the dealership, where we're trying to look the clients up on social media before they come in, so we can learn a little bit more about them. And so, if they're coming in to look at a Defender and we see that they, they go surfing and stuff like that, we have a way to connect with them beyond the transaction. I think that's really what I took from the book was that, just your customers aren't widgets, they're people.
That's right.
And if we can treat them like people, then we're going to be better off for it. And, at the end of the day, I don't remember if this was Warren Buffett, Charles Munger, or Will Guidara that said this, but if your selling proposition is predicated on the product that you're selling, somebody can make a better product.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you don't protect yourself by selling just off the product. But if you have a product and then correlate that with an intense level of hospitality, and so with a point where that hospitality becomes your product, then it doesn't matter if a competitive product comes out there and becomes better than you, because you've got a different, unique selling proposition.
Yeah.
And so I feel that with my brands, if I focus on the hospitality side of things, I've got a killer product, you know what I mean? But so does Mercedes, so does BMW, right. So does Audi. They're all beautiful vehicles. So we're in that level now where my competitors are equal, if maybe better sometimes, I don't know, but I've got to have something else to differentiate us. And so I think that's where hospitality comes in, is that how can we take care of people? And, it's fun.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the other really good point I think he made in the
exciting
book.
part, that's right.
There's, what did he say? There's nobility in what we do. I think it was one of their tenets that they had at 11 Madison Park. And yeah, there is. There absolutely is. Let's have some fun with these people and make them more than a transaction.
Yeah. So JLR has this really cool thing where you can actually give gifts to your clients. Mm-hmm. And you guys do that every day in the store. Well, not every day, but very often for purchases, for service. And it's all about the loyalty side of it. That's why JLR does that. Yeah. You told me a story the other day about a sales associate that said, hey, I really want to get this wine for this guest. And you kind of kicked back on them. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so JLR, they're big on customer love. So we've got a great goodwill empowerment program that they put together that affords us the opportunity, without having to get pre-approval from them, to take care of clients. And they've even pushed further where they don't want it to be a reactionary thing anymore. They want it to be a proactive thing.
Yeah.
And so in this instance, I think the client was buying a new Range Rover Sport. And one of my sales associates came up and was like, hey, yeah, I'd like to get them a bottle of wine and a bottle of champagne. And I just, I paused for a second, because we buy a lot of wine for the clients. We buy a lot of champagne, but it's because that's what those clients like. And so I just wanted to ask them, are we buying this just because this is what you're used to getting to buying them, or are they actually big like enophiles?
Yeah.
And he was just like, well, no, I just wanted to get him some wine. I'm like, well, no, then go back, like, figure out something more personal.
There's something better.
Yeah, there's something better. And I think it ended up being like, this was a mom of like 4. She's a stay-at-home mom, and this was a birthday present. And so we ended up, I think, getting her a gift certificate to the Cavalier Spa, which is like a really swanky spa in Virginia Beach. And it was about half the amount of money I would have spent on the wine.
Wow.
But it's going to mean so much more.
Exactly.
That's the hardest part about this, is getting your people to understand that it's not just about buying a gift to buy a gift. It's about making a truly bespoke one-of-one moment for that person.
That's right.
So that they'll remember it. Just like the hot dog story in Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah.
You're trying to create hot dog stories every day.
That's right.
On a hot dog budget.
Yeah, exactly. So that hot dog story you're bringing up, it's beautiful, because now all of a sudden it talks about a hot dog off the street that was, let's say, $4, $5, $6. I mean, it's New York, so maybe it was more. But that person that was traveling through town that was eating at 11 Madison Park, they brought up, hey, we're leaving town, we got to get in the airplane soon, but I really want to get a hot dog. And it literally wasn't saying, go get me a hot dog. It was that that's what they wanted to do.
He overheard it while he was busing the table.
Oh, that's where it was.
Yeah. And,
okay.
And
so
in
the
that
busboy
story,
overheard
he
it.
brings 2 great points. Is like, one, are you always just focused on the process and not listening to what's happening? Because if you're not listening to what's happening, you're
not aware.
He speaks to that. In Austin this past summer at the JLR conference, he talked about that specifically. He's like, are you listening so that you can make action? Because without being actively listening, that story would have never happened. He would have never overheard them talking about lamenting how they didn't get a dirty water dog in New York City.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't even call it a hot dog. It was a dirty water dog.
Yeah. That's what New Yorkers call it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And they'd gone to all the best restaurants, and he overheard that. And again, he calls it a $2 hot dog. Had such a lasting impression on that client. Like, that's what we need to look for. Like, how can we create our $2 hot dogs for every customer that comes in? Yeah,
and you're exactly right. Like, so going back to the wine story versus the spa story, that wine might have gone and sat in storage for, let's say, years, and they would have come across it later to enjoy it sometime and completely forgot about where it came from.
Yep.
But I mean, I can almost guarantee that if I was in her shoes getting that spa certificate, I would have booked it the same day.
Yeah.
It's about getting that instant. Also, like, she cares about that. She's going to act on that. So were you there when you guys gave that to her?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you hear the reaction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah. It was perfect.
Exactly what you want every time.
Yeah.
But even this experience you guys had yesterday, where you have Defender owners and you're taking them through sand, you're taking them through terrain, you're taking them through deep water to really show what these vehicles are capable of. I mean, it's, in a good way, it's so eye-opening, because we had even technicians with us from your store. And one of the comments I heard last night from one of them was something like, I knew everything on the Defender, but I actually didn't know it had this really small feature on here that you can adjust and you can change and do in this new way. So there are ways, and there are things that, even though we see these vehicles every single day, we're a part of it, we train ourselves on it, that an event like that can really open someone's eyes to, oh, this is what it feels like to do this. I know how to do it and how to execute. I know what it does, but in the actual physical world, like, this is what this feels like, and this is why. And I mean, your clients had the same reaction, is that they're like, oh, this is cool. And even knowing last year you had, in a good way, there was only one repeat client from last year. So this year it was new clients that you cultivated in this experience.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. What was the overall takeaway from your clients?
Oh, they had a great time. Like,
it was beautiful.
They wanted to do another one.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to keep this going. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this every year. And they're wanting to do like stuff every quarter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, hey guys, I don't have the budget for that. But if you guys want to meet up, once a quarter and, caravan down and do some off-roading, I was like, I'd sign up for that too.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, it was good. I think they enjoyed it.
Exactly. It's so beautiful because you create this experience. You have the experienced team with you. I'm from JLR that kind of helps through that. They do the safety briefing. And then afterwards, you had this amazing intimate wine bar set up. So you went there was hand food, there was bigger food that you could eat too, but also just this wine experience. And I mean, it was so wonderful to see that. What was it like being there in the wine bar and knowing that you had just knocked that event out of the park? Like, how did you feel in that moment?
It was fun. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, that's one of my favorite places to go when we're down here. And
personally, that's
and as I promised the guests, every activation we do will include wine.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, no, it was fun. Like, just seeing the community that's starting to create out of these clients. The reason why we went around the room and introduced ourselves was because one of the clients actually asked for that to happen.
That's
she
right.
wanted everybody to be able to know who they are, where they live, etc. And she was even trying to put together another drive today, which is funny.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, we're going to do it again. Yeah.
It was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What do you think is the overall sentiment when a client goes through something like that? So yesterday we had 30-some people that were there total, including your team. And I mean, clients that walk away, they have this renewed relationship, I feel like. And it's not like you cash in and sell a car like that.
Right.
But now you have this deeper loyalty with them, not just with the brand, but with your store. And I think that just fits so perfectly in your strategy.
Well, 100%. Like, I mean, I've told clients this before. Like, I don't build the cars, and I don't make the parts, so I have no control over those things. But I have an obligation to your experience, and so I take that obligation very seriously. Like, we're trying our damnedest to give the best experience possible to these clients.
Yeah.
And if we can build a relationship together, then when these unforeseen issues occur, like a back order part or something like that, we'll get through it together, as opposed to them being mad at me, the retailer, over something I legitimately can't control. Because let's get it clear, I don't like back order parts either.
That's right.
That means I can't fix your car, which means I can't get paid to fix your car.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
So it's just being able to have like a real conversations with the clients, as opposed to them just, again, if you're a transactional relationship, you're not going to be afforded that grace, if you will, when these issues occur.
Yeah. Why do you think there are other operators, even within JLR, that aren't doing experiences like this?
Well, maybe it's the effort, maybe it's the ownership, maybe it's any number of things. I just think that I'm lucky to have, Checkered Flag embrace the idea immediately. When I took the idea to the executives, they're used to me bringing a lot of ideas, and rightfully I get told no a lot, but on this one they understood it, and now that we've done it the second time, I think they're realizing with me that this isn't about, again, it's not about a transaction. It's not how many cars we sold. Like, yes, last year we did take a couple orders. Last year we did sell a couple cars out of it. And this year we got a client that's ordering our Range Rover that was here. So we're going to make some money out of it, but people buy cars. People buy a lot of cars. And when they go to buy cars, they talk to their friends. And these people have friends. So when their friends talk to them about buying cars, I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about this experience.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll get a shot at their friends. And so that's why I really want to try to grow this into a bigger offering with more clients here, because then they become, my marketing, if you will.
Exactly. And I was just about to bring up guerrilla marketing, and that's a perfect way to look at that is you're really going in and helping and creating an experience so that you get more swings and more at-bats with other people. And I know this wasn't intentional timing-wise, it was just how it worked out, but here in, a week or two is Thanksgiving, and I guarantee at Thanksgiving, these people that were at this event yesterday are still going to be talking about this event.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, exactly.
I really hope so.
Yeah, but I mean, that just goes to show that you're in it for the long term. You're not in it for this 30-day cycle.
For sure.
You know how it takes, how much work and effort it takes to get into, okay, here's where our business is, here's what we can control. There's things we can't control, part back order, service things that could happen here and there, but you are in control of the experience.
For sure.
Yeah. So if you look at like the next, let's look back real fast. So you've grown through a variety of roles through automotive. What do you think is the next big thing? Like you're now you're full GM at JLR. Before you were over 2 stores, which lets you put a little bit more time and intentionality. I think you said it best is that if you're 70% at one store, you can only give 30% at the other store.
Right.
So now you're so much more intentional in that exclusive GM role. What are you looking forward to like the next few months to like dig into and get solidified?
I'm really looking forward to, getting our CSI above national average consistently.
Which, by the way, why is that so hard?
I think it's a multitude of things. Right now, there are a couple of issues that have been occurring that are going on with the vehicles that are creating an adversarial relationship for the clients and us, and the manufacturer. So there's a litany of things. I think there's also the fact that I think there's a lot of dealers out there that game the system, that
for sure
change emails or whatever it is, and so they inflate the national average. And so then when you have retailers like myself or like the Penske Group, for instance, I know they're really, really hard on this. Like we fired our top service consultant last year because we found out he was changing emails. Like, we don't want to get to the top the way the others are. We want to get to the top.
You don't want to cheat to the top.
That's right. Exactly.
That's right.
So I think there's a multitude of reasons why, but they're all excuses.
Yeah.
Either way, we just got to figure out a way to get there. You know, if we have an internal locus of control, then those excuses can't have any impact on us because we control the universe, you know?
That's right.
So I'm looking forward to in the next couple of months being able to see how much we can grow the store. And honestly, I'm looking forward to see how much Paul grows the Volkswagen store too.
That's right. I mean, the new GM over there.
Yeah. You know, Josh, our VP, we talked about this a couple of times. Like, I think he agreed with me from the start that the VW store is underserved and that having 2 leaders, you know, independent leaders at both stores, then both stores will rise. And I'm hoping that we can deliver that for them. I'm hoping that, you know, we can increase some sales volume now that I'm fully focused at JLR, increase our fixed ops revenue, you know, now that, again, that we're fully focused on it. And most importantly, we really want to go after Pride and Pinnacle. We want that award.
Yeah. And for Pride and Pinnacle, for those who don't know what that is, how would you describe that?
You know, there's 4 volume groups in Jag Land Rover. So it's based on your, like, you know, your service size and your sales volume. And the top 3 retailers for Jaguar, that's the Pride Award. The top 3 retailers for Land Rover, that's the Pinnacle Award.
I see.
Yeah. And so there's this retailer scorecard that scores you on, you know, your percentage of objective, you know, sales CSI, service CSI, fixed right first time, you know, customer paid parts, like, you know, it's just this like algorithm, you know, and you get points based off of that. And so you've got to look at the scorecard and figure out where you can maximize your points to get up there. Yeah.
So talk about the service side real fast. How do you find good technicians and how do you create those opportunities for them to continue to grow?
I don't know. Can you help me with that? No, I think you just have to always be looking. You know, we've got a really young crew in our service department.
Sure.
But we've got some good techs in there that are going to be teaching them, though. You know, we've got a great shop foreman now he's a really, really, really good teacher. And we've revamped our setup in the shop to where, you know, I think we've got now 4 apprentices in there, and they're all going to be working under him.
Yeah.
And then that allows me to have 2 team leader techs that'll have, you know, I think 3 or 4 techs that go to them for help. So we're kind of pushing it to where the best teacher is working with the newest people, and then the best 2 techs are there to help out the mid-level techs if they get stumped on anything. And so we're just trying to do that to be able to increase throughput while also getting the apprentice technicians trained up really well. And, you know, we've flipped a couple of guys over the last 2 years from apprentices to flat rate, and they've done great, you know. So I just think that we're taking the approach of I don't want to spend $15,000 to $20,000 to take somebody else's problem anymore.
To sign on.
Because that's typically what you're doing, right? I mean, why are they leaving? You know? Yeah, sure, maybe it's a bad organization, but typically I think they're that kind of person that's, you know, the grass is greener mentality, and I don't want that on my team. Especially if they're chasing $15,000 every single time. 100%. I don't want people that are always looking for the greener grass. I want people that are going to help me fertilize mine.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think if you take somebody, you bring them as an apprentice, you give them a roadmap on how they're going to become a flat rate tech, you know, the competencies that they need to know and by what time they need to know them, you know, because that's another thing we don't do well in this business. You know, we don't give people roadmaps to success. So I think it's all the more important for technicians to say, hey, listen, you don't know how to do anything, all right? So by month 3, we need you to have X, Y, and Z. By month 6, we need you to have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And if you are able to do all these things, we believe that we'll be able to get you into a flat rate position within 12 months.
Yeah.
Like that gives somebody something to look for, something to work on. And admittedly, we haven't been good at that ourselves as an organization, but our HR department has taken on that initiative, and we are getting ready to roll out like a company-wide brand by brand apprentice program. Because, again, we think, and I think the data supports it as well, that we just don't do well buying other people's technicians.
Yeah.
They end up leaving. They're very, very expensive. And if we can grow people from the beginning of their career, then I think we can keep them longer and we'll have better retention. And the JLR store does have, I think, the second best retention rate in the dealer group, and I think that's because of the staff, right?
Yeah,
they want to stay together. Like you're going to have attrition, that happens, but you know, can I take them from a level 0 to level 4 tech and help them build a life? Hey, maybe then I get a lifer out of them.
Yeah, but it's just so cool to see your technicians. So the staff I've interacted with the last few days, your service manager, technicians, shop foreman, like there's so many great attributes about them, and you have such a great relationship with them. You're so open with them. They are so bought into the plan together. I mean, it's not, and it makes it sound like it's just your plan, but it's like everybody's collective plan.
Right.
Like, because there's a dream that everybody's moving towards,
right.
and it's so clear that they're trying to do that. And it just seems like you don't see that at other stores. And it's probably just because you've been so intentional in relationships now for, heck, dude, let's call it decades to get to like where you're at with people.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just gonna be so cool to see where you take things, where you grow. Man, I don't know. I'm just so excited. Like, obviously, like, I love you and everything that you're about. But man, it's just so cool to like get into the operation and see your love for people, your care for people, your care for clients, and really just creating those experiences. Now, if there's other retailers out there that you want to inspire to do things like create events like you did yesterday, what advice would you give them?
Just do it. Yeah. Like, don't sit and wait for the right time, because there's never a right time. You can always identify the fact that you don't have the expense or the budget for it or whatever it is. There's always some capital expenditure you're gonna have to do, so that's gonna prevent you from doing this.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just plan something out. And don't look at what's the least I can do to make this thing happen.
That's
Ask
right.
yourself, what's the most you can do to make this happen, right? And
Yeah.
If you're not there today where you feel like you can spend the money, then apply the 95-5 rule, and in 6 months you'll be just fine, right? And if you're crazy about 95% of your expenses, then it'll leave you 5% of your expenses to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
So dig into your expense structure, figure out how you can reduce some of your expenses. Now, I'm not talking about personnel. I'm talking about all the different little things that you can do. Are your and I know this is getting in the weeds, but this is what you're going to need to do if you want to create the budget so that you can have intentionality behind the hospitality aspect of your business. And I think you have to do this. Like, you need to dive into the idea that if you just think that you're like a Walmart and you're just there for people to come find what they want and buy and transact, then you're probably going to get acquired one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
Start realizing that we're in the hospitality business. We're not in the auto business.
Yeah. Well, even going to the 95-5 rule. So 95% of the time you want to control your expenses extremely, extremely tight. And one of the things you brought up on Thursday that I didn't know until we talked about it, we were on the phone with Mottville and kind of going through the spreadsheet, looking at what your digital marketing expenses are.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you basically cut all of your third-party listings because they weren't performing to your high standard.
Right. And
that's a simple way to, and I'm not saying people need to cut their third-party listings, don't take it that way, but
I am.
in your situation, it was perfect, right?
Yeah.
Because they weren't performing to the level that you wanted.
Would you personally spend money on something that you're not getting a return on?
Exactly. That's right.
So why should the business?
Exactly.
And don't get me wrong, they're great partners. I love my Auto Trader rep. She's a sweetheart.
That's right.
The dudes from cars.com are great.
But you need to have expectations for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just have a fundamental problem with spending money to send somebody to somebody else's website that hosts my competitors.
Exactly.
Whereas I'd rather spend that money to get in front of customers where they are.
Correct.
And then direct them to my website, and then build an ecosystem on my website that makes them want to stay there and look at cars and play with tools and widgets and have a good, DRT and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't, in today's age, I don't see the reason why we need to be on third-party listings personally.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of really close to that strategy. So I want you to talk about this for a second. So Constellation. Mm-hmm. So one of the things you guys do is you retarget visitors or you find new visitors in a specific audience with Constellation through video.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to bring that up is you just did a video testimonial with them.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, the crew at Constellation is amazing. And, fortunately they have turnkey products with both of the vendors or the manufacturers I was working with at the time.
That's right.
And, there was an opportunity during the Olympics to get in and do their NBC Spot On program and to get on Peacock and the Olympics and, Major League Soccer and NFL and, it's just a media buy that typically a dealer group wouldn't have access to because getting on NBC is incredibly expensive. But the way they were able to do it for us, we're on there. And so, we did it and we started tracking it, and then we saw, a real uptick to sales. And again, we were out of the third parties. We just had this. Our top two lead generators for sales over the last 6 months have been the website and the chat tool.
Wow.
Which proves that it's working because it's sending clients to there.
That's right.
And then, you know, Ryan built out a really thorough Google VDP tracker. So we can see, like, we know model by model, are we up in VDPs or down in VDPs?
Yeah.
And we can look back historically and stuff like that. So we've seen an increase in website traffic. We've seen an increase in VDPs. And so we love it, you know. And Ron, who's their, I think VP of Sales is his title.
Oh yeah, Ron Smith.
Yeah. You know, he's a good buddy, and he just hit me
Love
up,
Ron.
and he's like,
Yeah.
dude, he's like, if I buy your staff lunch, will you do a testimonial? And I was like, you don't have to buy me anything, but yes, they'll take the food because they love it.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I was like, and I'd be happy to do a testimonial
Yeah.
because I like your product.
Yeah.
You know, it's working for me. So
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And so they came in, and I think that was my first time doing something like that.
It's a high degree too. They come with a film production crew, basically.
It was a little nerve wracking, but it was fun. Yeah.
No, it came out great. And even just having you talk about that. And the reason I ask is I just know you're so open about, hey, this is a really good strategy and it works well for this. Right. And here's why. And it all goes back to the analytics side of it, which Ryan Mottville has done an excellent job at helping you with that on the digital side. But it really does answer the question, not directly does this sell cars, but this gives you more at-bats with those people. So it only improves the funnel so that it does help sell more cars. And at the end of the day, you are selling more vehicles, whether it's new or used.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that side of it. Then there's also, so with Ryan, he built out your spreadsheet so you can actually see what the attribution is for like third-party listings, other leads like that. And then he also built out a dashboard for VDP views.
Yeah.
Like historically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I open up Google Chrome, it's two of the tabs. Well, one I'll delete now, but
yeah,
they'd always pop up, and it's in my set tabs. And
yeah.
I look at it every morning.
You just always look at it,
just to glance, you know, just to get an idea. You know, what's the pulse of the customer base right now?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then it also gives us an opportunity, like, you know, if say Defender 130 VDPs are down,
yeah,
you know, we'll reach out to our in-house photographer and be like, hey, can you come do a quick reel? And they'll throw something up on Instagram and social for us. Not that we have a big following or anything, but, you know, it's just one thing that we can try to do to help drive some traffic that way.
Yeah. And it's mind-blowing too how organic social media works, especially for like a JLR store.
Right.
I've seen just because the TikTokification of everything on every platform, you can do a very basic reel of something and literally copy what someone else has done, and you can get hundreds of thousands of views. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's just crazy the way that social media has gone these days. So I know you're a big book reader. Mm-hmm. So in closing, what are 3 books that you would recommend that other people should read?
Principles by Ray DeLeo, Factfulness by Hans Rosling, and Setting the Table by Danny Meyer.
And why'd you pick those 3?
Factfulness is a book that really changed the way I look at everything. You know, the underlying premise is that, you know, to be fearful of lonely numbers. You know, if somebody tells you, like I've said in the testimonial, you know, I saw a 13% increase in sales volume. Well, without additional data sets, that 13% is meaningless.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of how I look at everything now. Like I'm always looking for additional data sets to go against the number that's being presented to me to understand what it really is telling me. And I thank my mentor, Pete Lively, for that one, because that was one of the books he forced me to read.
No way.
Not forced, like he put on my learning journey with him with that book in the beginning. And it really did reshape the way I looked at numbers, for sure. And I've always been a number person, but it made me like want more and more and more. And like, it's crazy the picture you can paint when you just ask for more data based on the initial data set. Principles is just a great book about how to, you know, just how to be. And I think Ray DeLeo is a genius. So, you know, I just, you would be wise to read his words. And then Danny Meyer's book, Setting the Table, it's got a tone that's very similar to Unreasonable Hospitality.
Sure.
So that's why I really like that one as well.
Yeah.
And I'll throw a 4th one in there.
Do it.
Everybody has to read Poor Charlie's Almanac.
Oh, yeah.
If you've not gotten into the mind of Charles Munger, you're missing out on some gold.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff that Munger's about that, I mean, dude, how many times have you quoted him this week, right?
Oh, a ton. I mean, he's
10 or
probably
15.
one of my heroes, man.
Yeah,
like
true.
He was one of the greatest minds we've ever had on this earth. And I just think that, you know, I've been reading his autobiography, I'm reading his biographies, like anything I can about him, I want to read, because he had a phenomenal mind.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for having me out here the last couple of days, being a part of this experience. I know we've been talking about doing that, and I'm so glad that we were able to put it together. And it's just been so cool to see your deep level of care for people not just me, but your technicians, your clients, even the JLR corporate side, like your deep level of care so that everybody gets a win out of that. It's just been so cool to see that.